Good kitten internet. Welcome to Darntown Aarhus. Hopefully I've said good kitten already. Pretty sure I have. Today is um, a holiday here in Denmark, so I had the day off. And unlike normal, there's a board game group that meets up in one of the board gaming cafes inside of Aarhus. And normally they meet on Fridays, which I can't normally make because of scheduling conflicts and timing. And I basically have to work extra during the week in order to have enough time to make it off and so on. Today, on the other hand, it's a holiday. I can make it. It's also Thursday instead of Friday, but whatever. Anyway, so I attended for the first time. Lots of awkward. So I'm just waiting for a bus now. Woo. Now I should be recording.
Now it's recording.
Okay. So that didn't really go to plan. So allow me to explain what's going on. Yesterday, as I mentioned in the video, I went out to a board gaming meeting. It's the first time I was able to attend. Sort of. This kind of dovetails into a life update. So if you don't like watching the life updates, just watch next time. This is the reason why this has ended up being merged together, because I recorded a grand total of 1 minute and 15 seconds of footage. Not exactly usable in a vlog format, and I wanted to explain why that happened. Also, to have a kitty on camera, because I did not have any kitties other than the thumbnail, both for VEDA 1 and VEDA 2. Day 1, day 2, I mean. So, over the past, we'll call it 6 years, because this really started at the start of the pandemic, I've basically given myself a major anxiety issue. Major anxiety disorder, I should say. It's been very slow, and it hasn't really been visible. Ooh, I have a different kitty. I think I need to show the other kitty.
I don't think you can.
Nope. Drat.
Maybe sometime during the month.
Hopefully. So what you all didn't see is that Jamara, Kneter's cat, who also lives here with us, was actually visible, but she's very scared and also mostly blind. I'll talk about her in a different video. So the anxiety disorder, and part of this really started with COVID. For reference, I have never been infected with COVID, at least not knowingly. I've never had any symptoms. I've never shown any signs of ever having caught COVID. Nobody's caught it from me or anything like that. I've also been able to fairly well limit my exposure to it. At one point, living in my home in Madison, my housemate ended up catching COVID. That would have been 2023, I believe. And I managed to not catch it while they had it. We were just wearing masks in the common area and then just keeping doors closed and windows open as much as possible, that type of thing. Anyway, so I wear a mask whenever I am out and about, either in a enclosed area with lots of people, for instance, public transit being the big one, or just generally in areas that I'm going to be exposed to a lot of people in indoor environments. So, for instance, I will always wear a mask while I'm in some form of transportation. I wear a mask when I'm at the vet. I wear a mask when I'm going grocery shopping most of the time. Occasionally I will forget the mask, but I just make a judgment call at that point, or run back home and grab it. And like when I was going house shopping, I was wearing a mask for almost the entire time, other than, ironically enough, the house that I'm going to be buying. But there's more to it than that. First off, wearing a mask is deeply uncomfortable for me. I am constantly itchy when I wear a mask.
And it's not just from my facial hair, which obviously reduces the effectiveness of the mask, but I am constantly overheating, like all of the time. If I am in the middle of minus 40-degree weather, bundled up as much as I can, I am profusely sweating, even though it is incredibly cold outside. That's just the way I am. It's a family thing. My grandfather is the same way. I know other members of my father's side of the family are the same way as well. It's just the thing is that we're always sweating, and sweat plus mask does not make a comfortable experience. So I'm deeply uncomfortable in person, which is something that I've never been before. I'm the type of person that's very sociable in general and happy to meet new people and introduce myself to others, and that started lessening. And then came the move to Norway. That I went from having, okay, I'm having a little bit of anxiety dealing with these types of things to, oh, this is actually causing a problem in my life. Because the other source of my anxiety is my lack of ability to communicate. Which does, these are together, and I'll explain in a moment, but my Norwegian is not so great. By the time that I left Norway, I was able to understand roughly half of all conversations. I could speak a small amount. I would probably say marginally less than what I left Florida being able to speak in Spanish. It's like I can deal with everyday communications, even to the point of if the cashier at a grocery store said something different, like if there's anything else, I'd be able to understand Norwegian and be able to respond appropriately. But that's about it. I couldn't socialize in Norwegian. And I know that a fair amount of the people who are watching this are multilingual, and this probably won't feel the same way to them as it is to me, being monolingual and just knowing a smattering of, what, the last thing I counted was 14 other languages? I freeze up often. It's like I'm able to translate what somebody is saying, but I'm very slow at translating it. Which is fine if I'm just listening to a recording, or if I have subtitles that help me figure out what's going on. But it's not so great when you're in a conversation with somebody while playing a board game, or while trying to roleplay, or just trying to say, hey, look, you dropped your hat. Those types of situations, it's very difficult for me to catch up. And eventually, I'm so far behind, my brain starts forgetting what was said, and it comes across not just as a stutter, but as an outright pause in both speech and thought. Moving to Denmark made that so much worse. Because, okay, I'm going to go back and explain a stereotype of Danish. Danish is the most difficult of the Scandinavian languages to comprehend word-wise. I've been told that Icelandic is difficult as well, but I think that's mostly written Icelandic rather than spoken Icelandic. Admittedly, I've only been to Iceland once. I don't have much experience there. But the stereotype is that Danish sounds like somebody trying to speak with a potato in their mouth. And this is a stereotype you hear Danes say as well. Long story short, a lot of Danish... So Norwegian is very much written the way people speak. There are two written Norwegian languages, Bokmål and Nynorsk. Sun's leaving. Say bye. Both of them are written based off, or both of them were codified based off of how people spoke. When it comes to Bokmål, or book writing, it's literally the way the Oslo dialect, which was similar but not the same as the Bergen dialect at the time. It was very similar to the way they spoke, which was in turn based off of the way Danes wrote. I'll get to that in a bit. Whereas Nynorsk is based off of the way everyone outside of Oslo and Bergen spoke. Or theoretically. It's a long story. But anyway, the point is that they are both phonetically written languages. Danish looks like, to me, as somebody who understands more Norwegian than Danish, as misspelled Norwegian. It's still very similar, but spoken Danish is nothing like Norwegian. The best way I can describe it is that every word sounds like it only has 2 syllables, regardless of the length of the word. Everything between the first syllable and last syllable, I know I'm mirrored, but whatever, is slurred. I cannot hear any pronunciation differences. It's kind of like they're trying to transition and rush through the word as fast as they can, which makes it utterly incomprehensible for me to understand. I went from understanding about 50% of Norwegian, I probably understand a little bit less now because it's not something I'm hearing every day. I have actually not been back to Norway since moving here, to understanding maybe about 5% of spoken Danish. The reason why this dovetails into the anxiety about wearing a mask is that they are both based off of communication for me. I pride myself on having excellent communication skills. For somebody who is deep into mathematics and computer science, I am an excellent speaker. The problem is that speech is not just literally what you vocalize, but also things like being able to see my face, see how I'm reacting, how I'm using my hands, especially for Italian. There's a lot more to speech than just vocal communication. And most of that is limited by me wearing a mask. Then you have tonal changes, like how I'm speaking right now versus how I'm speaking right now. There's a lot of nonverbal communication that comes across, unless if you're speaking with somebody who is translating in their mind. Even if I'm speaking English to somebody whose native and social languages are not English, but they are still fully fluent, they will not get across the same communication stuff. And vice versa. I won't understand the same communication things because they're thinking in Danish or responding in Danish, but translating it to English for me. That combined with the constant, and I mean constant, undermining in my mind of I should know the language by now. Why am I such an idiot for not being able to understand? Everybody else around here understands everything. Why am I putting a burden on them for needing to translate when I should just know? Hi, Yasin. See, my kitties actually get along fairly well at this point, until they don't. Anyway, all of these things combined basically lead me to a very long anxiety attack. Every time I try to communicate with someone, I'm basically rolling the dice to see if I'm going to just constantly have an anxiety attack. When I arrived at that board gaming cafe, I actually panicked on arrival. Mind you, that food place that I ate at before going to the board gaming cafe was just across the street. I had the correct time. I made sure to install the stupid Facebook Messenger app on my phone, just in case there were any plans that were changed, since this is a Facebook group. I did everything that I could in advance. I made sure I had plenty of time. In fact, I had too much time. I was done eating a half an hour before I needed to show up. But I still panicked. I still felt wildly uncomfortable in my skin the entire time. Not just like before arriving and then I relax some. And this is a group that speaks English as their social language, because not everybody in the group understands Danish, so they've all switched to English, even though for some members of the group it's like their 4th or 5th language. They're all fluent in English. So I wasn't changing the group dynamic by being there, but at the same time I felt like I was changing the group dynamic by being there. It's really difficult to explain to somebody who doesn't have an anxiety disorder. And it's rough. So, I guess this is the mental health life update. The reason why I had been not going was a combination of not going to the board gaming meetup was two things. One was, it really was the timing. It was, I work from 10 to 18 every day. I have been the entire time I've been living in Europe. The idea being that I have more overlap time if I work a little bit later. I have more overlap time with the Americans that I primarily work with. Not to mention that I'm going to be socializing with primarily Americans online. So it makes more sense for me to effectively move time zones. So I get up later, I go to bed later. Instead of being in Central European Standard Time, or Daylight Time at this point, it's more like I'm in the time zone that the Azures are in. Azures. Not the Microsoft Cloud. Anyway, so, and the board gaming thing starts at 18, and it's located downtown, which is about a half an hour bus ride away. So it's difficult for me to be able to make it. I also need to eat during that time, and my options are basically go home, finish work early, and end my workday far earlier than I normally would, which is a problem when it comes to interacting with like my boss and coworkers. I have a meeting until like 17:15, so I couldn't really do that anyway. There's more to it though, and it's because of this anxiety. I had attempted to go to this board gaming event on 4 separate occasions before succeeding, and I've been doing this for almost a year now. What got me to actually go this time is that I finally was able to speak with a therapist, who immediately referred me to a psychologist, because my mental health problems have gotten significantly worse. Even though technically, according to the DSM, I'm actually rated with a lower level of depression than before I moved from Madison to Norway. I think they might just not have realized that I'm prone to understatement when it comes to my own health. And I've stated as much, but yeah. So my mental health is in a dumpster. That dumpster's on fire and rolling gently toward a river. When talking with my psychologist, one of the things that we identified as an area that we need to start working on was the fact that I had so much anxiety over socializing over my lack of understanding Danish. So, since there was a holiday yesterday at this point, there's also a holiday today for that matter. Our holiday for Easter is Thursday, Friday, Sunday, and Monday. Saturday is technically not a holiday. But because I had the opportunity, the chronological barriers to entry were effectively eliminated. I could leave my home at any time because I wasn't doing anything. So it was just the mental problems, and that's a little bit easier for me to overcome, so I decided to try it. And I mean, I succeeded. I was able to play games, but I felt bad the entire time. And it's not the fault of anybody there, it's my fault. I didn't feel comfortable with anything. Also, because the air quality inside of that board gaming cafe was hideously bad. Like, almost as bad as some of the worst flights I've ever been on level of bad for air quality. And it was for understandable reasons. The board gaming cafe / bar is partially underground, so all they had were windows at the top of the room, like windows up there type of thing. And as a result of that, and it was also an extremely windy and kind of crappy weather day or night at that point, so they didn't have the windows open, so there was no airflow. They were randomly opening up the windows, and it helped some, but they would close them again. And also we were in a corner, which didn't really have much airflow anyway. So air quality was kind of low, which meant that I did not feel comfortable with removing my mask. So I had the physical communication barrier as well. I know I've been speaking for too long, but I didn't feel like releasing the vlog yesterday made sense without this extra context, so mixing it up some. I'll try to have a little bit happier content, but also I need other happier content because I am going to show you, well, we're going to give the kitties some treats once I go back downstairs. For you, it'll be instant. Anyway, if you're still listening to this, sweet, thanks. I'm happy that you're able to take the time to listen to what I'm saying. And as a treat, you get to see my kitties have a snack. Bye, Internet. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
We do this every night. Yep, can't you tell they totally hate each other? Can't stand to be near each other. Oh no, you're getting my feet for free. This is the most peaceful they ever get.
This is nothing.
Yeah. Ever get ball awake? How about that?
Yeah.
3x zoom does not look the same as 2x. Got it. Sorry, Internet, still playing around with new phone. I've only had it for 3 months. Gotta wring out every little bit of food out of it. It sounds more likely to lick the fingers than Isin. Don't know why. And then Zone will start grooming Isin.
And Isin will be upset about that.
Yep. But as long as Churu is still involved, or off-brand Churu, I should say. This is VEDA, which is made in Germany. I actually contacted the makers of this, in fact, because a certain orange boy is on a special diet now. But that's another video.
It's empty kitty.
And that's it. Every night we do this. One of us, at least.
Nope. Getting really diminishing returns there. Sir? You didn't even get the little bit. There you go.
All right. Thank you. And, oh. Thank you for showing your faces in. Do you want to say goodbye, Zone?
Oh, you do at least. Meow. Meow, meow. Meow. Oh, he started purring. The piece usually lasts about the amount of time it takes for one of us to get up off the floor. Okay. Thank you for joining me, Internet, and thank you for joining us, Kitties and Creator. Bye.